Now, friends, I want to thank all of you very much. First of all, we've reached about 1,600 to 1,700 subscribers as of today. We mentioned this in our previous video. So we said that the 132 level at 25,079 would be a good buying zone and that the rise would continue up to 908. In our previous video, we made a sale around 908. But as of today, when we look at it, there is currently no accumulation happening in any way. So on average, the 25,280 to 350 range is Nasdaq. Now, it's more accurate to put it this way. If you draw all the numbers you see on this screen onto your MetaTrader, there you'll be able to clearly see the supply and demand zones, in other words, the buy and sell areas. After drawing these, you'll also gain more detailed information about certain things. Take a look at it like this. Even if you currently don't have any specific technical indicator knowledge at all, you can still very easily trade and consistently make money from scalping just by using these simple lines. So that is exactly what this entire strategy is all about. We've been doing this job this way for years. Let me show you an example of a Bollinger Band. It's been displayed, and right now you can see it on MetaTrader. Look, at the moment around 25,132 on the H4, it appears as the lowest point. But this will change a bit tomorrow. Since the day closed around 25,350 anyway, it's likely that there will be a bit more selling tomorrow. But even then, it could be around 25,039 to 25,079. We do not anticipate seeing a market closing price below that level at this time. But let me give you a little tactic as well. So when the market is at break even, meaning before Nasdaq breaks out in any direction, you shouldn't enter a trade here. In other words, we need to proceed with a buy-sell logic based on where the price touches the upper or lower Bollinger Band. So to summarize the situation for tomorrow, right now, the last level on the Bollinger Band appears to be around 25,079. But with this volume, it could be stretched a bit lower. Now, our buying zone will be around 25,079 to 24,882. In fact, if we push it a bit further, we could even buy up to around 25,772. Now, if you find yourself stuck in the psychological mindset of immediately jumping into a trade, as soon as the market opens, or as soon as you first open up your screen, just to see exactly where the current price action of the Nasdaq is, usually leads to losses when we look at it. So it would be more accurate to explain it like this. We need to determine our own buy and sell zones here. For example, let's say Nasdaq, when it goes up by 1% or 1.5%, that's when we need to identify our selling zones. Look, right now you can see the 623 level at the middle band of this Bollinger Band. In other words, you see 25,623. Now, if it closes above 25,623, as you can see, its next target is around 26,094. That's the upper band of the Bollinger Band for us. So that is essentially what this Bollinger Band is intended to represent. Now, moving forward, the lower part of the middle section of the band is the area where selling is predominant. A close above, whether it's a daily close, H4 close, or hourly close, it doesn't matter, but the most accurate is still an H4 or daily close for this. Right now, since our H4 has clearly closed around 350, in other words, it closed below around 25,623. At the moment, we need to interpret this as there being more selling pressure. What we need to do in this situation is to try to catch a buying opportunity in the market. In other words, if we can make a purchase from a good spot here, our profit will be much higher. I'm just giving you this example based on the upper side of the Bollinger Band. Right now, I already mentioned this in our previous video as well. 777, 555, 222, and 079. These are the main supports in Nasdaq. They are resistance levels. Let me give you an example of this, like this. When it stays below 777, the next support will be around 555 to 517. If it closes below that as well, then 220. 222 or around 217 will be the next support. Look, right now it's around 350, 25,300. So here you can just write down 222 and 0.79. But there's also this example here. For example, let's say before the session starts, Nasdaq is at 25,079, meaning it's still down, showing negative numbers in the lower ranges. If you open the market with a negative and that becomes the low point, meaning it opens at the bottom, I'm talking about the regular spot market here, not the futures market right now. With the market opening, it's likely they'll push it a bit further down. So an opening at 0.79 could show levels around 24,900 and some change. In other words, depending on the timing of the market, it would be more accurate if we trade accordingly. For example, let's say it's around -1, -1.5. During the day, that is, when it moves within the session, they try to push it up in the last 2 hours before the session closes. So if we enter at a good support level there, it will surely yield us a nice profit. In other words, what we're currently waiting for here is to make a purchase at 0.79 or below. That's what we need to do. As for the selling point, when we look at it, we can sell as soon as it goes above 623. So what does this correspond to? It could be 623, it could be 727. Because since it will move above the upper Bollinger Band, it will also create some selling pressure here. In other words, they will try to make the daily close below 623 no matter what. For that specific reason, right here, if the price reaches 727, or in other words, somewhere within the range of 627 to 727, you might consider initiating a sell position while using a stop loss. You could consider buying below 0.79. But here, trading hours are very important. For example, let's say there are a few minutes left until the market opens. There are 30 minutes left. Let's say we saw levels like 0.39 on Nasdaq or around 24,900. From here, you can consider buying as the market opening approaches. But in other words, you could make a very small purchase. A market that's already in the negative will be pushed even lower at the open. So the speculator never lets people get out without a loss or without buying up the goods cheaply. This is what we are currently predicting. In any case, 25,200 levels will be reached here. That is, as soon as the market opens, right here. There's no need to try to buy. But before you decide to actually execute a trade, make sure to open your Bollinger Bands and have them in front of you. As I said, the middle line, the blue line, you can already see it now. You see 3 lines there. The 2 lines at the top are the high volume buy lines. The one at the bottom indicates a market dominated by selling. Now in markets dominated by selling, the line at the bottom, that is the third one from the bottom, from that line onward, we need to start buying. For example, if we buy around 25,350 right now, it could stop us out or cause us to lose potential profit. Because when we look at it, there could be a pullback down to around 25,079. In fact, let me put it this way for you. You know about the H4 closings. So, for example, until the H4 closing, they might push it below 25,079. An hour before the H4 closes, they bring it back to 25,079. So what happens here? With that lower wick, they scare everyone and trigger stop losses. So here for nothing, there's a chance you could lose money for no reason. That is exactly why in this specific situation, we really need to be able to carefully analyze both your individual stop losses and the deceptive fake moves of the financial market with a very high level of precision and detail. I mean, we're already a small channel. I'm doing this as a hobby. If you come across my video and share your feedback, whether it's positive or negative, or if you like and comment, I would be very happy. You can also reach me on Telegram. I'm personally active there all the time. I'm always active. Even if I'm not active, I check in from time to time. I keep an eye on things. So I'd be really happy if we could support each other here as much as we can. I wish you all a good day and profitable days ahead. I've been in this market for 20 years, and I've never seen the market go against anyone. In other words, the market doesn't respond to being rushed. There's really nothing to rush about. If you're patient and try to enter at good points, you end up making money one way or another, and even if you do lose, your losses are very small. For example, personally, for selling tomorrow, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, I'll be waiting for the 25,623 and 727 levels. I'll be waiting for those. For buying here. When it drops below 25,079, I'll check the buying positions, depending on the situation, because as you know, the market is very active. Anything can change at any moment. Storms can break out within half an hour, right there, right here. So there's no need to rush too much for that either. One way or another, this is how we'll make money from the market. Take good care of yourselves.